Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rico Borrego,
I am your other co-host, Tony Borrego.
and this is the podcast known as Relatively Sound, the saddest podcast on the internet. Today, Tony and we are returning to a podcast format that we did last year. Last year, we did a March Madness bracket. Specifically, we did it for um, the best rock singles from the 2000s. And this year, we are doing another themed one that we're calling March Sadness. Tony and I have picked 16 of our favorite saddest songs, and we've paired them up against one another. And we are going to be deciding which one is sadder than the other. And it's going to move on and it's going to face the other songs until we get left with one final song. There's really nothing else to it. Tony, how do you think we should be?
Got
You
my
got your tissue.
tissues
You
in
got your
case to get
tissues.
sad.
We both have our very sad lighting right now. We're like in the dark. Um, all we're missing is like a what? You do you have a nose ring, Tony?
I do.
There you go. So, um, which is a good thing to point out. There's like no emo songs on on this episode because Tony and I are picking like our favorite sad songs, and Tony and I aren't really into like emo, so there's gonna be like no My Chemical Romance or anything like that. Um, but we have a good little mix of genres. I mean, it's all kind of the music we mostly listen to, so like rock and stuff like that. But some good mix of artists. But yeah, Tony, what do you think? How are we judging these songs today?
So we're gonna judge it based off a few things. So lyrics obviously are gonna be a huge part about this. Performance, of course. If you're able to convey the emotions, what does it make you feel? And I mean that's probably how mostly I'm gonna view it. Also, just songwriting itself, I find sometimes a simple song is good for conveying, emotions, but sometimes something a little more complex can really pull some things out of you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, and it's probably a good time to point out that these songs are sad. Some more sad than others, but we will be talking about subject matters that are on the sad side, whether it's like addiction or suicide and things like that. I mean, we tried not to pick super personal songs. One, because that's almost an unfair advantage, but like we try. I don't know. We're gonna explain why we picked the songs, and give our reasons why. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a sad episode. So if you're really not into sad songs or whatnot, might want to skip this episode. Maybe next year we're gonna do a March Gladness episode.
Perfect.
But yeah, so for our YouTube viewers, I'm gonna pop up right now on screen the our bracket. But don't worry, to our audio listeners, we will be um letting you know what songs are matched up against what songs. So let's see, Tony, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Full
perfect.
screen.
It is full screen, or I need to full screen it.
No, it is full screen.
Okay,
So
perfect. Okay. So, round one, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna name all of we have 16 songs, so there's gonna be the first round, there's gonna be 8 matchups. And I'm just gonna name them all, and then we'll start with each matchup. So we have Johnny Cash's cover of the Nine Inch Nails song "Hurt" against Queens of the Stone Age "I Appear Missing." We have the Beach Boys song "Till I Die" up against Alice in Chains song "Nutshell." We have Ben Folds Five song "Evaporated" against Death Cab for Cutie's song "What Sarah Said." We have Pearl Jam song "Black" against the Frame song "Disappointed." Cat Stevens song "Trouble" against the Bare Naked Ladies song "War on Drugs." Radiohead song "True Love Waits" against the Car song "Drive." "Keep Me in Your Heart" by Warren Zevon against Will October's "Hate Me." And then King's Crossing by Elliott Smith against Adhesive by Stone Temple Pilots. So,
and just in case no one noticed here, all the songs I suggested for this list, Rico managed to put against each other, making me choose between them.
no,
So
to be fair, um, Tony and I, there were some songs we agreed on right away, and then there were some songs where he suggested, some songs that I suggested. So we each had a couple songs we had to go listen to, songs we weren't as familiar with. But I did randomize on this generator. So I did not put any songs against each other on purpose. It was all random. So let's start with the very first matchup. We got Johnny Cash's cover of Hurt against Queens of the Stone Age, I Appear Missing. Now, it's already an interesting matchup, I think, because Johnny Cash, this isn't his song. It's Nine Inch Nails. And I think a lot of people, especially Nine Inch Nails fans, will say, why didn't you include the original? Because that version's, maybe objectively more sad. So, Tony, right off the bat, I want to ask you that, like, did we do the right thing by including the cover over the original?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I like both versions a lot. I do think the Nine Inch Nails version comes off more sad, more emotional, but there is this real simplistic vulnerability to Cash's performance that feels a little more timeless. Especially given it was in, the near the end of his career as well. It just kind of
Oh, his
adds on to
life.
that. Well, yes, sorry, his life.
I mean, yeah, his career too.
um, yeah, so I don't know. You didn't ask if we should do Nine Inch Nails. You just went for
That's true.
the Johnny Cash one. So I think that probably says a lot for
I
you.
mean, I think, I know Trent Reznor has gone on record saying like Johnny Cash put a whole different meaning to the song. And he approved of it, and I just think, I don't know. This actually would have been a tougher matchup if we did the original because if you have like a Queens of the Stone Age song against the Nine Inch Nails song, those are kind of more sonically paired well. Where you have, in this case, you have an acoustic song with Johnny Cash's version of Hurt against a pretty rock electric version of I Appear Missing. Like, Queens of the Stone Age, I Appear Missing was written, I think it was like one of the first songs that Josh Homme wrote after he almost died during surgery. And that the song is about that, like there's lyrics specifically about him being in the hospital. And I think a lot of the song was like his feelings of like almost dying. And then with Johnny Cash's Hurt, I think you have lyrics that there's some lyrics Johnny Cash changed, right? Like, I'm gonna pop over to the
Did
lyrics
he?
real quick. Yeah, because um, My Empire of Shit wasn't that the original lyric in the Nine Inch Nails song?
Oh, yeah, maybe you're right about that.
So, and maybe Johnny Cash just didn't want to swear, or maybe he thought changing it to My Empire of Dirt would be more fitting. I think that's the only lyric he changed, but I don't know when you read and listen to Johnny Cash's version, it's definitely like it's like you said, more reflective, like him looking back on his life. Where the Nine Inch Nails version is more, I guess how Trent Reznor was feeling at that time, and I actually don't really know the history of why he wrote the song or what it means to him. I just know that I didn't really appreciate the song until I heard Johnny Cash's version.
Yeah, and I think the Johnny Cash version where it shines is really the ending part. If I could start again a million miles away, I would keep myself, I would find a way. Like that song with his, his old voice and just this very raw, direct approach is it's really impactful, like you said, really reflective. So it is interesting to compare it to a song that is a lot more personal and specific, such as I Appear Missing. And for me, what makes this song really emotional is sad is actually the outro. This song, it gets kind of dark and spooky sounding, but at the end it really lifts up. There's quite a climax to it, and that's what does it for me. But this was a song that you actually slept on for a while, Rico. You admitted that. But now it's like top of the album for you.
Yeah, it is, and maybe it's just because when I first heard this was my first full album I heard from Queens of the Stone Age, and I think that I was into more of the catchier tracks like "My God Is the Sun" or "Outside by the Ocean." those songs, even like something like If I Had a Tail. And there's a lot of sad songs on the album. We could have picked Vampire Time and Memory. We could have picked the closing track, the title track, but I think this one is maybe the most personal. And just with if the story behind the song, it makes it even more sad. So yeah, both this song and Johnny Cash's version of Hurt, they both do end. But I will say this: you said with Johnny Cash, it's the outro when he sings "I would keep myself, I would find a way." Does that sound more hopeful than like the outro to "I Appear Missing," where he like the last word he sings is "I've fallen through"?
You do raise a good point with that. I well, okay. I think with the cash version, it could be hopeful, but I think also it could kind of just be like straight regret, like an inevitable regret that we all face, and we can't find a way to do that. It's obvious. So, I mean, I feel like you could argue it either way, but you're right though. I appear missing in like the overall tonality is dark, right?
Yeah, and for
Um,
me, the saddest line is in the pre-chorus when he sings, "One day I hope I'm someone you'd miss." Like that's a very powerful, like oof. Like you hear that and you go oof. So I'm torn. I think this is one of the hardest matchups because I think they're both sad, and I think the performances they're very different because the Johnny Cash is more intimate, it's more vulnerable, and then the Queens of Stone Age that performance is it is vulnerable too, but it's also like the song is rock. It's got fantastic guitar solos, great bass line. When they play it live, that outro just like goes on for another like 3 or 4 minutes and is fantastic. But that's not gonna be in favor of this version because this is the album version. But I don't know. This is a tough one.
and something too is that I find the lyrics with her, kind of like I suggested, were a little more like universal. Like we all could apply those themes to our own situations, much like Cash did for himself versus Trent's delivery. But with I Appear Missing, like the lyrics are a lot more kind of like with imagery and kind of a little more creative.
True.
I like the one line, something he says, a spitting image of me, except for a heart-shaped hole where the hope runs out. Is that what it
Yes.
is?
Yeah, that is what it is. I forget where in the right here. The rabbit. No.
No, no, above it, right above. Oh, it's in verse one. Okay,
Yeah.
except for the heart-shaped hole where the hope runs out. Like something like that is extremely sad. So if we're going off sadness, I think I Appear Missing might take the cake. Even though I would say Hurt is arguably more impactful through its simplicity.
Yeah, it's tough because it's one of those instances where I don't. I think the lyrics and the story behind "I Appear Missing" is more sad, but I think the music in "Hurt" is more sad.
Well, like the music and I Appear Missing is a little more spooky, dark, as
It's more,
opposed
yeah.
to
It just
sad.
it kind of just sounds like a Queens of the Stone Age song, a really good one, and it really fits the album. But I'm sure there's probably actually like sadder Queens of the Stone Age songs musically,
Yeah,
even
okay.
like even like the title track of like Clockwork with like the strings and it gets really dramatic and
Right.
or like something that's like sludgier and more like darker with like the opening track Keep Your Eyes Peeled.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that, yeah.
But yeah, it's very tough.
I think I'm gonna vote for Hurt just because of the timelessness of it.
Oh, her,
I
I thought you were saying I Appear Missing a second ago.
No, no, I
You know what, I'll go her too because
what
I
what makes me more sad? M- Maybe Hurt.
and you know what, I might say her too because Hurt's not a song I listen to a lot, because I do like Johnny Cash. And I've been meaning to get. He has some albums produced by Rick Rubin, who also produced
Oh.
Hurt. Where there's one album in particular where Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is his backup band,
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
I don't think it's that album, but there's other very popular songs that Johnny Cash has covered, like Soundgarden's "Rusty Cage," Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Southern Accents, and their song "Learning to Fly." I think it's "Learning to Fly." and then you choose one. He covers that. Um, so, but I don't. My point being, I don't listen to a lot of Johnny Cash. So whenever I hear "Hurt" on the radio or it pops up on some type of playlist I'm listening to, I am like, damn, that's a good song. I need to listen to it more. So maybe that's too why I want to vote it because like whenever I hear "Hurt," it's like oof. Or when I listen to "I Appear Missing," I either listen on the album where I'm just jamming through the whole album because it's I to me it's like a top 50 album of all time for me. Like I love like Clockwork. That maybe I don't listen to it outside the album a lot to where when I hear it, it makes me emotional. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, like it seems more the experience of hurt is more emotional,
Yeah.
where I appear missing a lot of it musically it's interesting, the energy is interesting. So I feel like when I listen to hurt, it's mostly focused on the feels.
All right.
Where I
So
appear missing can be either way.
let's let's vote for Hurt. I guess I should have figured out.
We get
There we
two
go.
votes for it.
Yeah, that's true. I guess. Submit scores. There we go. Okay, Hurt moves on. Okay, next
All
matchup.
right.
Beach Boys Till I Die and Alice in Chains Nutshell. Now these are both your suggestions. Obviously, I
See?
know Nutshell, but I didn't know the Beach Boys song too much before. So, but why don't you say why you picked these two? I guess Alice in Chains you probably don't need to go into too much because if you like 90s music, if you like grunge music, you're a fan of all those grunge bands from the 90s, you obviously know Nutshell is like one of the biggest sad songs.
Right,
Um
right. Like when I
so
think of sad songs, Nutshell is one of the first ones that come to
yeah.
mind.
So why don't you talk about why you picked the Beach Boys song? Because the Beach Boys are not a band I think of when I think of sad songs. In fact, I think the opposite. I'm like, oh, surfing songs and songs about girls and stuff.
Right, and hot dog stands. So part of why I picked the Beach Boys song "Till I Die" is kind of what you just said. Beach Boys have mostly happier music, so when they do have a sad song, it definitely hits a little harder, in my opinion. Um, and "Till I Die" comes from kind of a really important period of the band. This is like one of the first albums with very little involvement of Brian. And this was one of his songs, and fellow bandmate Bruce Johnston considered it to be Brian Wilson's last great song. He wrote the lyrics himself too, which is kind of, he doesn't always write lyrics by himself. He's more of the music guy, producer.
You mean Brian Wilson?
Yes, yes, sorry.
Okay.
And the lyrics are so simple, but I think they hit though. I'm a cork on the ocean, floating over a raging sea. How deep is the ocean? How deep is the ocean? Like it's so simple, but I think what's really cool about it is kind of the arrangement of the music and how it enhances these lyrics. I'm not sure how much of this is just kind of rumors or if it's true lore, but I remember reading something where musically, I guess Brian was trying to do something like the sea that had big spreads and like the range of the notes and the chords that kind of go in and out. And there's a lot of group vocals in this song. And when I think about emotional performances, I think about more of a solo singer instead of a band effort. But the way they do it is, they all start off singing together in the verse. And by the end of the verse, it goes to all of them singing the same melody in unison. And I don't know. I think that's really powerful. Not to mention the super simple, once again, lyrical tag. These things are me until I die. Or these things I'll
These,
be.
yeah.
Oh, okay, misheard lyrics 101 right here. But it's a beautiful tag, and yeah, I don't know, Rico. This being a new song to you, what was your experience? Are you thinking, what the hell am I talking about?
Well,
Or
for people watching this on YouTube, look how sad this artwork is for this. I don't know if this was a single and this is the single artwork, but
no, that is the album cover, and it's supposed to be of some. I do forget what it's called, but I think it might have been like supposed to be for like a Native American type of thing, like some tragedy. I'm totally butchering the
this
history
this
on
this
this.
album's called Surfs Up, and this is the album cover. The hell?
Yeah, Surf's Up. Like
I've
this
never,
was their transition
I've
from the surf period.
Yeah, I've never. I mean, if you've been listening to this podcast and you've heard our episode we did on a Beach Boys album, that was my besides Pet Sound the only other Beach Boys album I had heard. So yeah, it's my first time seeing this album cover. Yeah, it was for a Beach Boys song. It was way sadder than I thought it'd be. Yeah, like I agree with you with the harmonies really making this song more sad than it probably would be if it was just one vocalist. Um, yeah, and reading these lyrics, like some of them are pretty like standard, like how long will the wind blow? Like, okay, that's kind of like a Bob Dylan lyric. And like some of like the I'm the cork in the ocean, that line is like pretty sad. And then like some of them, like I'm a rock in a landslide, like that was not as sad, or I'm a leaf on a windy day. But then like the lyric, it kills my soul. Like, yeah, that's very like straightforward sadness. And then the outro of these things I'll be until I die, which it's like these things I'll be, it's all these things he's referencing in the verses where he's like, I'm a leaf on a windy day, I'm a rock on a landslide, I'm a cork on the ocean. Like he's saying those are all the things I'll be until I die, which is pretty sad. Um, so yeah, so it's like I said, it was way more sad than I thought it was going to be. Um, but I will say it had been a while since I heard Nutshell because I'm not a huge Alice in Chains fan, not yet. I'm sure Tony's going to give me an Alice in Chains album in the
It's
future.
coming. It's coming.
Um, and but obviously I know some of their big hits like Man in the Box and this song. I don't was this a single? I don't it's just like a very popular track by them.
I
I know the
think it
MTV,
might be a single because I
I know
think
the
this and No Excuses and I Stay Away, those are all singles,
I
I
know
think.
the MTV unplugged version is supposed to be really popular too.
Yeah,
Um,
it is acclaimed.
yeah, I mean, I obviously I went back and I listened to this song as well. This song just sounds more sad, I think musically, like the chord progression, his vocals. Um, and then you read the lyrics, and there's actually not that many lyrics, really. It's actually I for some reason I thought there was way more lyrics than what I'm looking at now. And they're pretty short, but they're also very to the point and very sad with lyrics like I'd feel better dead. My privacy is raked. This battle all alone, like pretty sad lyrics. Um, neither song I have really big, unlike the first two songs, neither of these songs I listen to a lot. I mean, I didn't even know the Beach Boys song until last week.
So you don't really
So
have like a nostalgia for them or like a bias.
no, but I will say like, because I do want to like pick, I'm not just going to like defer to you, but I do think Nutshell is a more sad song. And again, maybe it's because like unfortunately we knew what happened with Lane and like those circumstances like makes the song more sad. Like I'm sure people when they first heard the song when it was released in 1994, it was super sad. But I'm sure it only got more sad after he passed away. Where, Till I Die, like it is sad, but like Brian Wilson's still with us.
Barely.
But he is. I know his wife actually just passed away recently,
Yeah.
but um, like he's still had a very long career. So I don't know. I say Nutshell.
I will say Nutshell too, and I think I have two reasons for it. One, I think it just more. Let's just be real. I think it just comes off more sad. It really is that whole '90s thing, but done at it, to its peak. And also too, I think the vocal performance really sells it. You compare it to some of his other vocal performances, and it just feels like very clean, very natural. It doesn't feel weak or feeble, but it's a lot more gentle than their other tracks. So I think that, you know, the contrast of that also sells it. So
Yeah.
Nutshell moved on.
All right. So now we got Ben Folds 5 song Evaporated paired up against Death Cab for Cutie song What Sarah Said. Now, this is what Sarah said was a song you were not familiar with, so you listened to it before. But you and I both know Evaporated, so we can talk about that first really quick. Evaporated is the closing song off their album, Whatever and Ever Amen, which I know this episode is not coming out till like late March. But right now you can go and buy a pre-order a new vinyl press repressing of this album. So if you're into vinyl and you love Bundlefolds 5, definitely go get it because I don't know how many copies they're making.
That's
Now
fair.
on this album, we could have chose probably an even sadder song with Brick, which is actually their most famous song. But that was one of those instances where I'm like, it's almost too personal. Like, and it's a song where it's like about two people, it's not just about one person. And I don't know, it felt weird putting it on something as silly as a March Sadness bracket. Even though I guess you could say all these songs on here are pretty personal and sad, but I also just wanted to do a little variety. So it's like, let's go with Evaporated because Evaporated, I think, is also very sad. Um,
I was shocked though when this was the one from them that you picked. I totally agree with you with Brick, because it's like two people's relationship. Like
yeah.
it's probably best to keep it off. But I'm surprised why you pick Evaporated. Maybe you can walk me through this.
Well, to me, this is one that really grew on me. So it's similar to actually I Appear Missing, where when I first heard this album and song, it was kind of more on the bottom end of the album for me. But over the last couple of years, I've just really grown an attachment to it.
And funnily enough, both those songs that you slept on, I liked since day one.
Yeah. And, you know, this is just a song wherever it comes on, it's like immediate cloudy day to me, like cloudy day or like overcast. And, you know, like, I don't know, when the song starts, like the music itself is just kind of like, I would say the music isn't super sad. It's not happy, but it's not like super sad. Like, it's not like a ton of minor chords, right? Um, but there's this very like, what's the word? Not melancholy, but kind of like that, where it's like he's feels very sorry for himself. I feel like in the song, and that's an emotion I can get behind. I think I'm someone that can very much feel sorry for themselves, and there's just these lyrics where he's singing like woke up way too late, feeling hungover and old. And then the chorus, it's like he sings, "Here I stand, sad and free. I can't cry, I can't see what I've done. Oh God, what I've done." Like it's almost like his emotions are just so he's so fried that he can't cry and he can't like he's sad, but it's like it's almost like he can't express himself. He can't like I don't know, fully be there in that moment of his sadness. And I don't know, there's something about what is it in the second verse where he sings, started thinking about my old man. It seems that all men want to get into a car and go anywhere. And his father was alive when he wrote this because his father is actually on one of their later songs on one of their later albums, the album after this. But it's just, I don't know. It's like that line just really hits me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just like a guy thing where you think about your father and then he gets more broad where he's like, all men want to get in a car and go. And I don't know. I'm not doing a really good job of explaining why I picked this song and why I think it's so sad. It's just like and I will
Well,
say this too. In the bridge is maybe like the pinnacle part of the song because he sings, it's like where the music gets a little bit more full and his vocals become a little bit more higher and he sings I poured my heart out and then he says it evaporated, which is where the title of the song comes from. So it's like he finally like lets out all of his emotions and they're gone into the air. They just evaporated. And something about that is just very sad to me. It's not as dark as something like I Appear Missing or Nutshell, but I think this it's a different type of sad. And I think we're gonna find different songs in this bracket that have different kinds of sadness.
I think for me, the sadness is more kind of subtle in this one. Like to me, when I see the song, especially reading the lyrics, It's almost like he's kind of talking to himself. He's kind of walking through this day. He's reflecting, he's literally walking down a road. He's standing there in, an emotional frustration. And the lines aren't so dark and dry like, I'd feel better dead. I wouldn't say anything's really funny, but Ben Folds is kind of a quirkier dude, and I think that comes across on this. And so I think that kind of personal honesty, the fact that he takes 4 verses in a bridge to, say all this. It's a lengthier song compared to the previous ones, which have been more short and sweet. Um, I don't know. I think that's kind of what I like about it. And I do agree. The peak of the song, the climax, I poured my heart out. It evaporated. It's very, very powerful.
But some of these lines are just so good too. Like, um, some of the ones that I haven't even highlighted, where he sings, "All smile and business these days, and I'm indifferent to the loss." So like he's putting up an act of like, smiles and um and then like a really cool imagery line where he sings, "Blind man on a canyon's edge of a panoramic scene. Maybe I'm a kite that's flying high and random, dangling on a string." Like that's actually a really great line.
See, I think the line that I like more, up in I think it's like the third verse, I have faith there's a soul somewhere that's leading me round. I wonder if she knows which way is down. Like to me, I think that's one of the lines that hits a lot harder for
Yeah.
me.
So you agree? Do you agree like this is a good one? Because like there are some other ones that we could have put on, like even if we're just talking Ben Folds 5, like you could have put on
Regrets.
Regrets or Mess.
Yeah, Mass would have been a good
Mess
one.
is like actually a lot of songs from that album, but I don't know. This one was just one that I feel like maybe gets overlooked.
Well, I think it was a good pick because it comes across very different than
Yeah.
the other songs on this bracket, but I think it does really convey the sad emotions.
Okay. So now you gotta tell me your feelings on Death Cab for Cutie is what Sarah said. Probably not a song you haven't heard before unless you'd heard this album. It's not a single, but it is a fan favorite for sure. And it tells a very very specific story.
I mean, I feel like you're gonna do a better job actually explaining the actual story. But let me say this. So it started off, and I think it starts with like an F major 7 arpeggio because it sounds like my song Compromise at the very beginning, the first
Okay.
chord. So I was like, cool. And then the lyrics came, and then it got emotional real fast. Um, the music in the song is very pretty, but it is very dark.
It's
And
a little
it's a cool
melodramatic.
texture. Yeah, yeah.
The piano, it's not arpeggio almost the whole song, basically.
Right, and the drums get kind of really rhythmic, but it like fits really well. And you, Rico, just take it away with the lyrics here.
I mean, it's a simple story. It's basically someone visiting someone else at a hospital, someone who's on their deathbed. And the first couple of verses are specifically singing about being at a hospital. Ben Gibbard sings, "As I stared at my shoes in the ICU that reeked of piss and 409." Then he starts talking about like the emotions you feel when you're visiting someone who, is close to dying. He sings, "I ration my breaths as I say to myself that I have already taken too much today." Um, and again, in the second verse, he's singing about vending machines at the hospital and magazines, and
Really
he just
setting a scene.
yeah, he describes it as a place where we only say goodbye. And really, when the song gets to the bridge, it's what happens is like the 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 song gets to the point where he sings, and then the nurse comes around, and everyone lifts their head because you're like, you know, someone about to deliver bad news. And then the song kind of like takes a step back because then he sings, "I'm thinking about what Sarah said." And up to this point in the song, we don't know who Sarah is, and you don't ever find out who Sarah is. I think it's just someone obviously that was probably close to Ben. And he obviously probably made up, changed the name in real life, for the song. But what Sarah says in the song, Sarah tells him that love is watching someone die. And then the song ends with the repeated line of, "So who's going to watch you die?" Which is pretty much his way of saying, who's going to love you? If love is watching someone die, who's going to watch you die? And man, that is tough. It is. and this song might not be for everyone because musically it does kind of stay the same throughout the whole song. But it does kind of build still. Um, and it
Well,
is a little melodramatic, but like if you just look at the lyrics, they're like, you know, stabs in the gut with a knife.
I like the repetition of the music. I think it works really well. It is an instant vibe. It's moody, it's moving, and that sets a good foundation for the actual all these lyrics to come across well. And then something really cool to me is after the outro, "Who's Gonna Watch You Die?" It's like an instrumental outro beyond that,
Yeah, that is
almost like
true.
it's your time to think about it. They're asking you the question, and you're supposed to think there for a moment and think about it. Like,
Yeah.
please tell me this was the last song on an album.
It's actually not.
God damn it.
It's not even the penultimate track. And here's the thing. The song after this is called Brothers on a Hotel Bed, which sounds like a dorky song, and it sounds like a prequel to your new twin size bed off Narrow Stairs, right? But it's not. It's a song where it's like two brothers on a bed and they're talking to one another and they're saying like how much they've changed. They don't even recognize each other. So that song's actually also that song we could have included on this list because it's just as sad in a different way. And that one has a great bass line and it's like it's another song where it stays the same, but it kind of builds a little bit. And that would have been a great closing track, and this would have been a great penultimate track. But then they had in that album with I think, a very overrated song where it's a slow acoustic song. I've never loved it. A stable song. Some people, Death Cab fans are coming at me with pitchforks because they're gonna be like, "No, that song is awesome. Leave it alone." But
And what do you say
yeah,
that song was called? Two brothers on a hotel bed, but 6 feet apart because they're not gay.
okay, I do like that reference. Do you actually know who originally did that?
No, I don't actually, to be honest.
And so
I'm
it turns
fake.
out the guy who people listening and watching this who don't know that Vine are gonna have no idea what we're talking about, but it's a Vine. It's originally one of the guys from Smosh,
Oh, really?
but he
Oh, so
released
was it
it
Anthony
on a
then?
yeah, and he released it though on a Vine that his name wasn't attached to, and it blew up, and it was him, but no one knew it was him until he came out years later and said it was him. Yeah,
That's pretty funny, actually.
yeah. So yeah, going back to this very sad, serious song. I think the song is so relatable. And I think the Ben Folds one is too, actually. They're both very relatable. Um,
In
maybe the Ben
completely
Folds,
different ways.
yeah, maybe the Ben Folds is more relatable because it's less specific, where the Death Cab for Cutie song, you know, you do have to, for the song to really hit, I think you do have to have someone in your life who's passed away or someone in your life that you visited a lot at a hospital. And, I know, Tony, for you and I, we have that experience. So, um, when we had that experience, this song hit very deep for me. And you were maybe lucky that you only heard the song now because had you know that song existed back then, it would have hit too hard for you too. But
And
I
I
gotta
think
say,
also beyond the actual scene, it makes you think about your own mortality in a sense too.
oh
Especially like
yeah,
for those who have health issues and stuff, thinking about, well, down the road, what if I'm in this scenario? So even if you didn't have the experience, I think this paints such an accurate image that it can still hit hard.
yeah, and that's why I have to pick the Death Cab song because
Easy.
I mean, just that lyric, that love is watching someone die, so who's gonna watch you die? So it is like at points when I listen to that line, I'm grateful that I have like Lindsay in my life to where like that is the answer to this very sad question. But this song is like if you don't have someone very close to you, whether it's family or friend or
Or a
a loved
pet.
one or a pet, this lyric could be like just devastating. So yeah. So you said easy agree.
Easy agree.
All right. So let's move this song up. I guess I should have mentioned if there is if Tony and I disagree, we're gonna do the tiebreaker by what song has the most listens on Spotify. But
Which totally is not fair given that some of these bands are huge and some of them
yeah,
are quite small, like this matchup we're doing next.
yeah, it's a perfect way to go into this next matchup. We have Pearl Jam's Black, which is one of their bigger songs, and then the Frame song Disappointed, which Frames, if you don't know, band led by Glenn Hansard, who actually has a lot of tie-ins with Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam. In fact, Pearl Jam is doing a tour for their upcoming album, and Glenn is opening for some of the shows.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So Black Pearl Jam, I don't think we have to go too long into it. It was a song that wasn't a single, but it was so well loved by people that it's it charted on the charts and it was played on the radio and it ended up becoming one of their actually most well-known songs despite it not being a single. Um this is to me like when it comes to sad songs, it's their nutshell. I don't I well
Really?
in the sense of this, in the sense that it's a very popular song that when someone says what is like one of the best grunge ballads, they're gonna say Nutshell, they're gonna say this song, right? I think. Um this song, I think maybe the first one on the bracket where it's about like unrequited love. Like obviously Eddie Vedder singing about loving someone. And to me, the climax of the song is the almost the outro. It's like the bridge where he sings the line, I know someday you'll have a beautiful life. I know you'll be a star in someone else's sky, but why can't it be mine? Like just that, like if the song was just instrumental and only had that spoken, the sung bridge of those lyrics, the song would be just as impactful because that whole section lyrically, I think is fantastic. It's very to the point, but it cuts deep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've never quite understood the opening lines to the song. Sheets of empty canvas, untouched sheets of clay. What does that mean?
Well, I
And
don't know.
I'm not calling out the song for not being sad. This is just an honest question while we're talking about the song.
I see it as like I don't know. I've actually never really thought about that. I mean, when I think of sheets of empty canvas, untouched sheets of clay, it's like to me like a ton of potential.
Right, like
Like
a
before
blank
you're like,
slate.
yeah, before you're gonna paint, you have empty canvas. Before you go and make, what do you make with clay? Pots? Like,
Yeah, I think so. Pottery.
yeah. So, you know, and then he sings all five horizons revolved around her as the earth to the sun. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. I will say like the verses and choruses are a little bit more up for interpretation. Like the second verse, I have no idea. I take a walk outside. I'm surrounded by some kids at play. Um, I'm looking at Genius. He feels jealous of people around him being happy.
So why do I see her? That's what he says?
Yeah, what do you think he said? Why do I see her?
I don't know why, but I thought it was burn. I'm way
Why do
off.
I burn? No, come on.
Yeah. I
Are
I
you
don't I'm
listening?
getting
What are
all
you
the
how
lyrics wrong today.
you're listening through like skull candy headphones?
Yeah, I actually listened to just through tin cans and a string.
Yeah. Um, but so far it sounds like you're maybe I mean on a scale of
This is
like,
one of those songs that I am just kind of desensitized to. I think that's the thing for me.
but you're not with
And I am a
Nutshell.
little shocked that this is the Pearl Jam you picked out of all the Pearl Jam.
Well, what would
You
you
could
have
have picked
picked?
um All or None. I feel like hits pretty hard.
That was that All or None and Sleight of Hand were the two I almost picked.
Yeah, Sleight of Hand. That would have went
But
kind of more along the evaporated route.
I wanted for our viewers who maybe I didn't want to do so many deep cuts. And we do have some deep I mean
Right.
the song that it's paired against is a frame song that is a deep cut. Like that's not a frame song that's
I think every frame song's a deep cut.
pretty much, yeah, but it's not even like a Elevator, Fitzcarraldo, or whatever.
No. So
Uh,
I see why you picked it.
yeah. I will say All or None and Sleight of Hand are more sad probably, but like this is a song that like if you know Pearl Jam, you probably know the song. And if you like Pearl Jam, this is probably one of the few songs you do like, even if you're not like a hardcore fan, right?
Right.
I will say that the music gets it also gets kind of dramatic when it gets to the end. And
I mean, Eddie's performance really sells the song. You know, like
yeah,
if someone was kind of mumbling their way I mean, he mumbles his way through it, but if they were to kind of timidly mumble their way through it, this song would kind of flop.
yeah. So then we got the frame song Disappointed, which I will say this. There is a live version on YouTube where it's just Glenn performing at a live show, and he does the song just by himself with an electric guitar, and it's so much better than the studio version. The studio version, there's like some weird production on, I think, his voice maybe, or the voice and the
The whole
guitar.
thing, yeah.
It just sounds. We're talking about tin cans. It kind of sounds like it was recorded through a tin can. But the song itself, like when you hear that version, I think you really hear the beauty of the song. Which, I mean, the song is pretty much the take on the classic saying, "I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I'm not sad. I'm disappointed." Which really is one of the worst things you could tell someone. Like, I'm not mad at you. I'm not sad at you. I'm just disappointed. Like, I expected better, right?
Right, right. Because it feels like a judgment of your character, who you are. You know, you can be mad at anyone for something they did, but to be disappointed with someone, you have expectations for them.
Yeah, and there's like so many sad lines in here. Um, Forget it and move on. My favorite probably line in the song is when he sings in the second verse. I'm just ambling on in this town. I can't get out and it drags me down. And these words don't really fit what I'm feeling now. Like, oof, like it's a very like Bruce Springsteen line where he's like singing like he's stuck in this town that he hates and it's dragging him down and he rather be somewhere else.
I know for me, I've always kind of thought this song was about like him having a friend that like um takes his own life.
Ooh.
That's kind of what always came across for me. Drag up real quick there for that second verse. Um, well, the years they got on top of you, the working load, it tallied up, and you went down beneath it all like anybody would.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then in the first verse, you did what you did and you followed through. And then what you said, you know, you were the one who always said forget it and move on.
And really because the song is so like it's a deep cut, the frames are not a big band. There's not like there's nothing on Genius about the song. No one's really given their interpretation. So your interpretation might be the correct one. And if that's the case, then yeah, the song is even more sad. Because I always just thought it was him, it was a relationship song where like
Mm.
two people who are together, they're both down on their luck. And like the last line, because the song does kind of end like on a doesn't it end on a chord that resolves the song? Like it ends on a major chord.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
But the lyrically, it does not end on a like resolving lyric because the last lines are, and you're not lost, you're just misdirected, and we're not going nowhere. So it's just to me, it always sounded like him talking to this person who's in a relationship with saying like, hey, we're both just not like not only like maybe not meant to be together, but they're also just like not at a good point in their lives. So but either interpretation is sad. That interpretation is sad, and your interpretation is maybe even more sad. So the question is, which song is more sad?
Disappointed for me. I mean, at least the meaning that I guess like the meaning I give it, I guess really. How I interpret it, disappointed is significantly more sad than black.
I know so far this is making for like more of a straight ahead episode, but I'm gonna agree with you. I may again, if I'm being fair, I'm an honest. I may be also a little blacked out.
Blacked out,
Um,
yeah.
like I'm burnt out on black from hearing it so much on the radio and whatever.
But to be fair, the production on the on Disappointed kind of makes up for the not being burned out on it. I mean, and I get it. Sometimes it does hit hard because it sounds like it's through a radio or something.
Yeah. I'll
But
play that version after we're done recording. It's so much better.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
This might be our first. This might be our first disagreement. I think.
Ooh, okay. So we got Tony's suggestion of the Cat Stevens song Trouble, and it's paired up against Bare Naked Lady's song War on Drugs. Um, so I'll let you. Why did you pick Trouble? Because I do. Thanks to Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder. Eddie Vedder's done numerous covers of Trouble by Cat Stevens, so I know I am familiar with the song, and I went and listened to the original, and it sounds very much like Eddie Vedder plays it pretty much straight ahead. Um, and then I'm the one that suggested it being. Well, actually, we were talking about what Bare Naked Lady song because for a band that's a comedy band, They actually have a lot of sad songs, and I think we agree that this is one of the more sad ones. So, why did you pick Trouble by Cat Stevens?
So I picked Trouble. I first heard it in Harold and Maude, and it's at like a sad scene in there. I won't spoil the movie, but it kind of made it seem like Trouble may have been the one of the partners in the relationship. Like, oh, seeing this person kind of like caused them trouble. It made them like upset because of how it resolved and everything like that. It kind of seemed like it could be applied towards that. And then you hear it by itself and you're like, okay, this is kind of a universal song, like Hurt. I feel like you could apply it to however you want to apply it, and it hits. And yeah, as you're scrolling over now, then you learn that he had written this song, amongst others, while he was bedridden. He had a collapsed lung and tuberculosis, so he was in the hospital for a few months, and then spent like the whole, like another 9 months, I think Wikipedia says, at home in bed.
Wow, so
And
Josh Homme ripped him off.
yeah, this is the original Hame. So I don't know. You hear about that, something so pivotal as being, you know, gravely ill, and then writing this song that is so it. I don't know how there's like there's a gentleness to it. He starts off with Trouble. Like you want to scroll down here, refresh my memory.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Get to that first verse. Yeah, Trouble set me free. I have seen your face, and it's too much for me. Just seeing Trouble, right? You're like, okay, that's a good line. And then you hear Trouble, can't you see? You're eating my heart away, and there's nothing much left of me. And then you're like, ooh, ooh, you know. Um, One of my favorites is really near the end. Um, Trouble, move from me. I have paid my debt. Now won't you leave me in my misery? Trouble, oh please be kind. I don't want no fight, and I haven't got a lot of time. Like the idea that you're just asking Trouble to show some mercy. It's consumed you, it's taken over your life, and you don't want to spend your rest of your life like that. And so obviously for him, it has a very personal meaning. But I feel like it's universally
Yeah.
sad, which I think is hard to do.
Um,
But
then so,
that's my little rant on it.
and then you got the Bare Naked Ladies song, War on Drugs, which when I first heard this song, first of all, again, if you're a fan of the Bare Naked Ladies and you know them for their songs like One Week of Pinch Me, and you hear a song like this, it's like a 180. It's like, whoa, like it's a very gentle song, but the music kind of swells throughout the choruses and then the bridge. Um, I had read that, and I'm sure we'll pop up here. Genius says it's a song about a woman's story of divorce, depression, and suicide. But I had read that Stephen Page wrote this song originally because, and this is almost taken directly from the third verse, that he lived by a bridge that people would jump off of, you know, and end their life. And yeah, I read that the town eventually went ahead and built something like underneath the bridge where people jumped, they wouldn't, go all the way down, and it cost a lot of money and it took a lot of time. And Stephen Page was like, they spent all that time and money and effort doing that when not focusing on mental health, which is really the root of people's problems to get to them, to get that person to the point of wanting to jump off a bridge. Right. Um, and the song is kind of like told from the story through the perspective of this lady. And yeah, the song kind of more seems like it's part of it is about like a divorce, or it's called The War on Drugs, but I don't really think it's about like the war on drugs. Like, like you'll hear in the news, like people who are like, oh, well, you should make all drugs legal and that would stop the war on drugs. There wouldn't be cartels and stuff like that. But I don't think that's what the song's about. I really think it's about mental health. And you really get, like I said, in the third verse, Stephen Page sings lines like, they put a net there to catch their fall, like that'll stop anyone at all. What they don't know is when nature calls you, go. They say that Jesus and mental health are just for those who can help themselves. But what good is that when you live on hell on earth? And then that last verse ends with, it's just way more trouble than some suicide is worth. So this song also is kind of universal. Maybe really more this third verse than like the rest of the song.
Right,
But
right.
even in the chorus, he sings, "Won't it be dull when we rid ourselves of all these demons haunting us? And won't it be odd to be happy like we always thought we're supposed to feel, but never seem to be?" Um, and like the ending, the very last like verse, he sings, "Hard to admit, I fought the war on drugs. My hands were tied and the phone was bugged. Another died and the world just shrugged it off." So I think that's Stephen Page and Ed, when they were like in their prime writing together. There'd be a lot of songs where they'd have lines like this where, yeah, this does seems like he's singing about like the phone was bugged, his hands were tied. That does sound like something on like about an actual war on drugs. But then the last line I think is really the message of the song where he's singing about, someone died, someone ended their own life and the world just shrugged it off. The world didn't care. So a very different song than Trouble. Trouble is more, I think, like you said, like someone the way they're feeling. And like Cat Stevens does a great job of like singing about, you know, different emotions connected to trouble, things causing him these feelings of grief, where the Bare Naked Lady song is like a very realistic take on mental health and how and that song came out like in um 2003. And I would say since then there's been more spotlight on mental health, but it's nowhere near where it should be, in my opinion. So I don't know. What are you thinking?
It's hard because it's once again it's a very big difference. One of the songs is it's just acoustic and a little bit of piano and maybe some drums.
Yeah,
For Trouble, but it is so touching. See, for me, Trouble is touchingly sad, where War on Drugs is powerfully sad, if
that's
that makes
true.
sense.
That
And
there's in that bridge I should have mentioned um when he's singing the line about just some other suicide is worth. The music is like building into the last chorus, and he really extend his vocals on the word worth to the point where his like vocals crack kind of.
right, and like the whole song is sung beautifully, very
Yeah.
well. So that one moment where it like is just too much to take is
Yeah, because they strip all the instrumentation back for that, like that bridge verse, that fourth verse or whatever, the third verse bridge, and then they build it up. So yeah, and then Treble is just like you said, acoustic with very light instrumentation. Both don't really like Treble. Does Treble even have a minor chord in the song? If we're talking about like music and songwriting
it
structure.
does, it does.
Okay, but it like I feel like the main part of the song is like what is it, like C to G or
Well, I mean, to be fair, War on Drugs is mostly major chords.
it
There
is
is like a
too.
diminished chord in
That's
the
true.
chorus, but
Yeah.
I will say this though. I think War on Drugs is probably the most sophisticated song we've covered so far, maybe,
Yeah.
arguably. And we didn't even talk about the first couple verses, which, talk about like um like a bad relationship and stuff. And there's a lot of great lines. The only flaw in her detailed plan is where she wins back the love of her man. Everyone knows that he's not coming back. He took her heart and she took his name. He couldn't stand taking all the blame. He left her only with guilt and shame, and then she cracked. So
Yeah.
you have like this aspect where he's talking about like a particular relationship. And then, like you said, the viaduct part of people jumping is like a universal thing. And at the end, talks about the war on drugs, my hand were tied and stuff. Like he does different scenarios, and it seems like in these scenarios, people really feel trapped. Like there's no way to get out of this mental health, cycle.
So I think
Um,
I think that perfectly sums up why I think I have to pick War Drugs to move on.
I'm not gonna lie, I was planning on picking Trouble, but after
you
like
talked
rereading the
you talked
lyrics,
yourself out of it.
I know I yeah, I'm gonna have to go with War on Drugs. It is
All right.
so well written
Yeah, it
and
is.
and very well performed. It yeah.
Yeah, it's one of their, especially when it comes to like their serious song, it's one of their best.
Although I think we also could have done 1 week. He's like laughing at a
Oh
funeral. Like,
my
that's kind of
god.
messed up, dude.
God. It's a bit okay. The next matchup we have Radiohead's True Love Waits and the Cars song Drive. Now, Radiohead, I think, is one of the saddest like popular rock bands today. And there's like so many songs you could pick. I mean, even the album we covered in the past, in Rainbows, there's Weird Fishes, Videotape, like New. There's so many songs from those albums that we could from that album that we could have done. But I picked as someone who's like the bigger Radiohead fan who knows like most of their songs and albums. True Love Waits, I think a lot of like big Radiohead fans will say is probably like near the top of their saddest songs. It was actually written, I think, right before Kid A, but it didn't make it on Kid A. But a live version made it on their live album, and I think on a bonus version of Kid A, like as a bonus track. I mean, and they ended up waiting many many years until technically their most recent album, A Moonshaped Pool, in 2015. And it was at that time where I don't really want to get into too many personal details with people on like celebrities, but Tom York ended up getting a divorce, and then they finally released this song on their most recent album, and then she actually ended up passing away like a year later from cancer. So again, it's just those minor details that
Wow.
true life details that make the song extra sad, even though he wrote this song like a decade before, you know. And I know you've never heard the song. And this song out of all the songs on this album is the most atmospheric song. Very sparse piano, some instrumentation in the background to give it this like kind of moody atmosphere, very dreamlike kind of atmosphere. Like there's really no drums or like guitar. It's mostly just like piano and Tom York's vocals and maybe some light strings in the background. Um, to me, this is one of those songs where there are some lyrics that are very sad, but to me, it's really the music and Tom York's very falsetto vocals to me that make the song impactful. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if you
mean,
feel similar.
I will say this, and I'm sorry that I don't have more of like a concrete answer here. So this was one of the songs that was brand new to me.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I'm not really feeling the song, to be honest. Like, it feels emotional, and it's obviously sad. Like, I'm not gonna act like I don't feel anything from it, but I like this is gonna bite me probably next month for album. But there's just like a pretentiousness to Tom York that makes it so hard for me to like lock in with the genuine delivery. Like, I know he's being
Oh,
real, and I know he's a great singer, and I like other performances of him, but it was harder for me to get into. And I think part of it too is because the lyrics are a little bit more, I don't want to say abstract, but they're a little less concrete. Like, you could say, you know, trouble, you've made me a wreck, now won't you leave my misery? And like, you can understand that and feel that. But when I hear, I'll dress like your niece and wash your swollen feet, I don't know, that doesn't really hit me. I mean, hearing more of the context around it, like you said, like, okay, yeah, that does hit a whole lot harder now. But
well, okay. When it comes to pretentiousness, I can't wait until you tell our listeners what album you're giving me next month for album. But we'll save that for another episode. Um, yeah, to me, it's just like when you know the the story behind the song, and you read some of these lines, like I mean, the very first line, "I'll drown my beliefs to have your babies." Like I've changed myself to so I can be with you. And then the chorus is just super simple. Just don't leave, don't leave. I don't know the vulnerability in his voice to me. I don't get the pretentiousness. I get just like vulnerability from him.
I mean,
Um,
just reading the little genius summary at the bottom, I mean, kind of, to
what?
Tom's credit, he needs to feel a song has validation, that it has a reason to exist as recording. We could do True Love Waits and make it sound like John Mayer. Nobody wants to do that. Like,
Well, okay, and the reason he says that is because if you listen to the original version, the live version, It's played on acoustic guitar, and the rhythm is like an upbeat strum.
Oh,
Yeah, it is. I'll have to play
okay.
a snippet of that after the podcast too. I forgot to mention that to you. Like, it is not the piano ballad that they turned it into. So
Got it, got
it's
it.
like with Nude, where Nude in this song, they had performing it live for many years, just not getting the version they want until they finally get in the studio, make the version they want, and then release it on the album. Um,
Okay, I am a lot more forgiving now of that.
yeah, but it's still, yeah, this is a simple song, and to me, I just felt like I had to put a Radiohead song on. Now it's matched up against kind of a weird song for like comparison for contrast because when we get I think what maybe the only song on the bracket that's from the 80s, right?
Yeah,
This was
yeah,
released in
that I think that's
84.
true.
This is a car song. Cars are kind of like rock slash like new wave pop. And this is kind of more on the pop new wave sound side, of their sound. It's a ballad. I think it's a very powerful song. This is one of my favorite car songs. And it's actually like it's a song where you listen to it, you just think, oh, it's a slow ballad, it's just like a chill song. But when you read the
It's a
lyrics,
vibe check.
it is a vibe track, but then the lyrics, the verses, he's asking like a lot of the lyrics in the song are him asking questions. Which by the way, the song is actually it was written by Rico Kasich, but it was actually sung by bassist Benjamin Orr, and he's the one who sings Just What I Needed. Um and out of their two vocals, I much prefer Benjamin's vocals over Rico Kasich's.
I think I remember reading a quote from like an interview where Rick had said something like, "Oh, when a song's extra special, like we would give it to Ben to sing,"
Yeah, and this is one of those songs
which
because
checks out. Yeah.
yeah, I mean the song, just the lyrics, it's about him asking this other person who's going to be there for you, basically, like who's going to tell you when it's too late, who's going to tell you when things aren't so great, and it all kind of goes into the chorus where he sings, "Who's going to drive you home tonight?" Like who's going to be there for you, who's going to pick you up when you fall, who's going to be there when you call. Um, and yeah, it's just very, it's it almost could be like a love song to someone, like, but never once does he say, "I'm going to be that person for you." It's really just this narrative
Mm.
between him and someone else going, you can't go on living this way. Like you need to have someone there for you. So it's really not, I don't think of it as a love song. I think of it as like someone confronting someone else and saying like, why are you living like this? Why are you, and it's almost kind of goes back to the Death Cab for Cutie song where it's like, who's going to watch you die? Now that is sung more dramatically and darker than this song,
Who's
but
gonna drive you home? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot simpler and a lot not as dark. Um, Now I do think the Radiohead song is more sad, but I know you're going to vote for the car song. And
And I have the audience on my side.
yeah, I'm pretty sure Drive has more listens than Radiohead. But I will say it's a close one for me because I love Drive, and I actually like Drive more as a song than True Love Waits. But I would vote for Drive. I mean, I know I didn't give you a chance really for you to talk about Drive, but like I
I'm gonna
assume we
go
feel
ahead and check it
similar.
on Spotify here. For me, I think the thing with Drive is, well, I instantly can kind of relate with it more, just personally. Um, and I hate to say it's a vibe track and that's why it's more sad, but I don't know. It just kind of connects with me more, and I don't really feel like I could give a good explanation because I just haven't connected with the Radiohead song that much.
Yeah.
So also, I'm struggling here to see how many listens this song
Yeah, I
has.
forgot how you do it on Spotify.
Here, let me pull up my phone. We'll do it on
No,
there.
no, you can't do it on your phone. It's you can
You
only
can't
do
do
it
it on your
on.
phone?
No, it's okay. I'm voting
Okay.
Drive with you, so we don't have to tie break it yet.
All right. All right.
We will have to figure that out here because um,
It
we have
will
two
get
more
dicey.
we have two more matchups, and then from there, I think it's going to move a little faster because, well, unless we disagree. So now we have Warren Zevon's "Keep Me in Your Heart" against Blocktober song "Hate Me." Um, Warren Zevon, this is kind of like the Radiohead song or the Bare Naked Lady song where you kind of have to know the story behind it for the full picture. Which is this is "Keep Me in Your Heart" is the last song on Warren Zevon's last album he released before he passed away. He had cancer, And when he found out, he decided he was going to do one more album. And he wrote this song for his wife and his children, and probably to anyone that he knew. And this is like the one song on the album. Like the whole I have the album and it's a great album, but it just sounds like for the most part a normal Zevon album. Like it's got fun songs, funny songs, rock songs, kind of blue barsy songs. But then it ends on this like ballad where this is like he's telling you that he's passing away. You know, shadows are falling and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. If I leave you, it doesn't mean I love you any less. Like, I mean, even if you don't know that he passed away after the song, like, I don't think it's hard to like read the lyrics of the song and know that like, oh, this is pretty much like a, you know, if I die before you, like, just know that I will always be there in your heart. You know,
Right, right.
um, I think it's a beautiful song. I, when I was getting into Warren Zevon, this was kind of a song that I like heard first and was like, oh, I thought he was just the funny Werewolves of London guy. But, you know, I think it's a very emotional song. And I will say this though, because I have a feeling you might be persuaded to pick Blue October. And I only might agree with you because I do think this song, it is sad, but it's also more of like a remember me love type of song where
I
you agree?
yeah, I'm for me. Okay, I will say this. I really do
Oh,
like
I picked the
this
wrong.
song.
I'm sorry, I picked the wrong hate me.
The
Hold
wrong
on.
hate me.
There we go. There we go.
So with Keep Me in Your Heart, I really do like that song. You know, it's new to me. I think it's powerful. I really like a lot of the lines. I'm tied to you like the button on your blouse. You know, in a line like that, or the one sometimes when you're doing simple things around the house, maybe you'll think of me and smile.
He's already passed away in that sense, you know.
Right. It's very like I guess bittersweet maybe. I don't know. Like it's
Yeah.
really sad, of course, especially with the context. But there is sort of a sweetness of like, you know, remember how much I love you and how much, you know, you mean to me and I hope you think of me. Like it's sad, but not in a depressing way, I think.
Yeah. Where Blue October song Hate Me, which is I would say arguably their biggest song. Um it is like so the song was actually written about one of Justin, the lead singer, one of his ex-girlfriends, but the music video and some of the aspects of the song actually make you think it's a song he wrote for his mom. Cause like in the music video, like if you remember, like he I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but like he's listening to um a cassette tape that has like a message that his like mom left
Right.
him on his landline or whatever on his phone.
His voicemail.
And you actually hear that in the normal studio version of the song. I think it's cut out for the radio. There's a whole like from Justin's mom, a whole voicemail about her calling him and making sure he's okay because he seemed kind of weird the last time they talked, and making sure that he's checking in on his medications, and then it ends with her saying, you know, I'll see you later, love you, bye. Um, but then like the song, I guess like the main portion of the song is about like, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, Justin has had a very, you know, has had a hard life. You know, he's had addiction problems and definitely mental health problems. And, you know, even though I can't say I've loved any of their recent albums, he definitely seems in a much healthier space, set of mind, which is great to see. And
He's
I
in
think
great
that,
shape.
yeah, and that come to me, that comes before the music. Um, but I think in this song, he is singing about his struggles in his life and how that's led to maybe harder times in his relationships with people. And then you have the chorus where he's like singing, hate me today, hate me tomorrow, hate me for all the things I didn't do for you. And so it's also kind of bittersweet, but it's also very like, you know, it's just some of these lines too, like they when he sings they crawl in like a cockroach leaving babies in my bed, like very dark lines. And in the music is very also kind of it's a little melodramatic. It's very 2000s, mid 2000s production. But the Warren Zevon too kind of is too. The Warren Zevon I think is only a couple years. 2006. Warren Zevon was 2003. Yeah, so not that much earlier.
Oh, I didn't know it was that recent.
For the Warren Zevon, yeah,
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 yeah.
he passed away. I think like a year after. I might have been the same year actually. Um, but yeah, the Blue October song is very. It's definitely more dramatic. It's definitely more. The bridge gets very. I keep saying dramatic, but I can't think of another word. Like it is. It's dramatic, but it's sad. There's a lot of very sad lines in it.
This is
Um,
the closest we get to an emo song on the list.
yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. We don't get it into like, My Chemical Romance, but yeah, this is as close as we get. Um,
I do hate the outro where it's I'm assuming, yeah, his mother again on the voicemail saying, "Hey Justin," and then they like for an uncomfortably long amount of time just keep detuning it while they loop it.
but that adds to the sadness. Actually, I kind of forgot about that outro. I'm glad you brought it up because really there's actually so the song ends like they end on a chorus, right? And I think that's where the radio edit ends. But then there's a section where you hear some girls singing in the background, and they're singing the lyrics to an older Blue October song called "Calling You."
Which is actually how the song starts as well.
Yes, yeah, this song, yeah, you're right. It does start with the snippet of someone else singing "Calling You," and it
Into the
says
voicemail.
"girl singing," and I'm curious if that was his ex girlfriend because it's not, I always thought it was the mom singing that, but in the Genius thing here, it says "girl singing," not Justin's mother, like the outro or the voicemail. So I'm curious, but that outro, the not only are they detuning, but the piano comes in and it's very dark and
Right.
very ominous, or the word I can
Ominous.
never. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's very. Yeah, it does make you feel comfortable that outro. Like I used to like skip it all the time when I would listen to the album. I'm like I don't need to hear this, but it does add to the darkness of the song. Um, so I mean, are you picking this one just because you think this one is like less about like I love you, remember me always?
Yeah, I'm gonna go up that because the Zevon one reminds me of "You and I Will Meet Again" from Petty, which is kind of the same thing, right? It's like, well,
Yeah.
it's not the same thing, but it's more about like someone passing and kind of like the emotional aftermath of that, with some sort of hopefulness included.
True, but
Where "Hate Me," he's just saying "hate me," like I messed up, I made mistakes, I'm not doing well, and I don't know. I mean, he says something about playing movies in my head that make a porno feel like home. Like that sets a very dark vibe. And I get it, dark is a little different than what's sad, but I don't know. The landscape
so
of this song is
I mean I like the petty comparison, obviously, but the petty one I don't think was like written about someone passing away. I think it's just about like someone you disconnect with, someone
really
that
okay.
like you don't keep in your life. Yeah, like I don't think it was he might have written about someone that he loved that passed away, but I think a lot of people viewed that song as that interpretation after Petty passed away. Where the
Okay.
Warren Zevon song, like specifically, was one of the last songs he ever wrote that he wrote about him having cancer. And so I don't know. I think the Blocktober one, I think maybe we should have picked another song because there's a lot of dark, sad Blocktober songs. And this one to me is a little too angsty for me to fully. So this is where I
It's
think
it's like the York thing for Radiohead. Like it's something about the delivery kind of makes it.
it's almost a little too melodramatic. So I'm gonna go Warren. You're gonna go October. So now we have to figure out the Spotify, which can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see that screen. Or you know what? Maybe we could just look at the views on Genius. It
No,
says it right
no,
there.
here's what we do.
Oh.
Because both Blocktober song and the Warren is gonna be in their top played songs,
Oh.
and it'll tell you right here. So Hate Me, what does that say?
What?
Can you see that?
No, no, no. I'm just seeing the Zevon screen still.
Oh, I asked you if you could see it.
Oh, I thought you meant the Zevon screen.
No.
Well, 'cause I saw the mouse moving, but I didn't see the screen. Interesting.
Okay, hold on. So Hate Me has 60,000 streams on Spotify.
Okay, that's it.
Or not 60,000. Why am I so bad? Um,
60. Wait, why does 60 billion feel like way too much though? 600,000?
no, 67. So
You've got to be kidding me right now.
wait, hold on. Let me see if I can share this other screen. Hold on. One
Where
second.
is the comma at?
Can you
Okay,
see it
yeah, it
now?
has 67 million listens.
Okay.
That is insane.
It is
Good
the
luck,
most popular
Warren.
song. Yeah, okay. So now we go. I hate using Spotify
And
Insights.
this is the part where you say, yes, and 67 million of those listens were just for me alone.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, 27 million is still a shitload, though.
If we were doing Werewolves of London, it would have beat Hate Me. All right, so Hate Me moves on. It has more streams on Spotify, which I mean doesn't mean it's a
I
better
mean,
song
Werewolves
or
Alone
a
is
bad
kind of a
song.
sad song. I
Mm.
mean, it's about a freaking werewolf. Probably killing people.
All right, so here's our last first round matchup, and then we promise we'll be a little faster with the following two rounds.
Now that the backstories are all
Yeah,
unveiled.
exactly. Um,
So why don't you switch back to the screen for us?
yes, thank you. Um, Here we go. All right.
Nice.
So our last matchup for the first round is
Which
Elliott Smith's
pains me.
song. Yeah, your some probably two of your like favorite songs from these artists. Elliott Smith's King's Crossing against Stone Temple Pilots Adhesive, which we talked about that song extensively on our previous episode where I listened to that song and album for the first time. So check that out. Um, so yeah, so I mean, I think we can give like super long. Yeah, I do think if you really want to hear like the backstory of Adhesive, you listen to that video because we go in depth, and I think to save time, I don't want to go as in depth, but like it's fair to say, Adhesive Scott wrote about his own battles with addiction and mental health, which
Stardom.
yeah, and stardom, which we have, we've had other songs on this list that have dealt with that. But it's a very personal, unlike the war on drugs, where it's maybe more about society. Adhesive is like really about him. He does talk about society a little bit with like superheroes dying, children crying, and maybe alluding to like other famous rock singers who have passed away, like Kurt Cobain and
You
whatnot.
know,
But
his peers.
yeah, exactly. But it's still a very personal song. Um, and I had mentioned on the podcast that specifically in the song when he sings "Down the River" made me very emotional. As emotional as some of these other songs that have made me emotional before in the past. So yeah, so extremely sad song. I think I know you say there's some other STP songs that hit us sad. I think you said Atlanta is very sad too.
No, I wouldn't say it's that
Okay.
level. I think Adhesive is one of those songs that are it's like a really ultimate vibe track. I know I probably overuse vibe track, but it is depressing,
Yeah.
but it's instantly touching.
Yeah.
It's hard to put your finger on it. But what I think is interesting about this matchup, I think this is a good matchup. King's Crossing also talks about addiction, mental health, pressure as a songwriter. Um, Although it does come across a little more mature, like War on Drugs, where it's a little more of a statement. Where Adhesive feels like a personal confession that's rough around the edges on the
Well,
vocals. Where
I agree. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I also wanted to say like really quick that King's Crossing with Elliott Smith, like Elliott Smith sometimes writes with more like almost like if we're comparing it to anyone else on this bracket, Ben Folds, where he'll throw in a line that almost seems like it's supposed to be like funny. Like what's the line in specific? What's the it's Christmas time and the needles on the tree, a skinny Santa is bringing something to me. Like obviously that has very dark intentions, right? But it also there's like a kind of comedic element to it, wouldn't you say? Like, I don't know,
like, oh,
skinny.
it's Christmas time, but it's like
Well, yeah, that and
the
like you
opposite.
don't think
Like
of a skinny Santa, like you don't think of Like what is if Santa was skinny, he would just seem like a homeless person or something, right? Like long beard, and you see what I'm saying? Like the implications.
Right. Well, okay. But okay, so like when I read that stanza, what I think to me is like it's Christmas time, I get my gifts and stuff, but like I think the skinny Santa is like described as like an actual drug dealer.
No, yeah, no, I totally
Right,
agree.
right.
But like,
Which I think is pretty damn sad.
yeah, and no, and this whole song I said, but there's some lyrics where they're like, and I get my check from the trash treasury because I took my own insides out. Like there's self-awareness to the song, and there's also self-awareness and adhesive, but I don't know. Like this song is, I would say the song is darker more than it is sad. Not that it's not, it's super sad. And here's the thing, Elliott Smith, we could have probably picked any song.
Right, half his catalog would fit in this.
And in fact, when you Google what is the saddest song, and especially when you go to Reddit, it's mostly just different people saying different Elliott Smith songs.
Right.
Right?
I
It's
know
like
Needle in
Needle
the
in the
Hay, big
Hay,
contender
Miss
for people.
Misery, or what, tons of songs. Um, but I don't know. We also have a episode where I listened to From a Basement on the Hill for the first time. And if you recall, this wasn't one of my favorites, kind of lower on the track list for me, where Adhesive it was like my favorite off Tiny Music. So I to me Adhesive, because I when he sings the Down the River line, again, I had a hard time describing why it made me emotional, but it hit me where I've had that feeling with Elliott Smith songs and even on this album with like Twilight, but this song never had that moment for me where I was like, "Ooh, like man, that is rough," and making me teary eyed. So I have to
Well,
go Adhesive.
I will say this about King's Crossing. I think what is cool about it, and I think it's probably, I mean, I think you could argue it's kind of the most interesting, or the production is like really interesting, and I think it really impacts the delivery of the song. The dynamics of it, it's kind of like really murky and layered in the beginning with like, like talking voices and kind of chanting ohms in the vocals. And then yeah, you get a very typical Elliott delivery and you get this really big chorus and everything. And then at the end, you get the line where he says, don't let me get carried away. Don't let me be carried away." Like talking
Yeah,
about like dying. Not to mention the line, right before it, give me one good reason not to do it because we love you. And then he just says, so do it. So I don't know. To me, I think that's very emotional, and the placement of, like the way the song ends with those sections is, I think, really emotional. But with all that being said, I think I will pick Adhesive. And I think it's purely because of how emotional Scott's vocal is.
I think the
It is
performance is better, which we haven't. I know you mentioned that as being one of the things we're going to use to pick our favorites from this bracket. And we haven't, maybe we did a little bit with like the Bare Naked Lady song, but yeah, I think Scott's performance is, it's a different type of song than King's Crossing too. It's kind of comparing apples to oranges, right? But
right.
like that performance, and even like the rest of the music too. Like I just find Adhesive to be much more. It's a ballad, but it's one of those really really sad ballads.
I know it's got the saddest trumpet solo I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's true.
All
All
right,
right,
so
why don't you go ahead and tell everyone what we're looking at here at round two. And I will say from here on out, the video slash episode might be a little bit anticlimactic because I feel like it's that first round that's the most difficult, and then after that it gets easier.
right.
But yeah, what are we looking at?
So our four matchups here are going to be Johnny Cash is Hurt versus Nutshell from Alice in Chains. What Sarah Said from Death Cab from Cutie for Cutie, uh, going against Disappointed by the Frames. War on Drugs by BNL against Drive by the Cars. And then Blue October's Hate Me against STP's Adhesive. Now, I'm going to be real, a couple of these are pretty easy for me.
Yeah, so we will go in order here because it'll make it easier. I think this first matchup, Hurt against Nutshell. I think it's hard.
This is the hardest one, I think.
but it's a little biased because I'm going Hurt, and it's because I just enjoy the song more. I enjoy the performance more, but I think Nutshell. I don't know because it's like what I'm going to say that makes it to me not as impactful is actually what I'm going to say makes Adhesive so impactful. So I understand I'm like a bigot, but um, I think Nutshell is so specific to Lane, where Johnny Cash is specific to his version. His cover of Hurt is very specific to him. But like you said, there's something universal about it. And it's something where like when everyone gets to a certain age in their life, they're gonna have the same feelings of regret. Like, I mean, obviously you hope you don't, but I think it's hard for anyone to admit that they don't have some type of regret when they're older. And that to me just hits a little harder than Nutshell.
I also think too that even though we are, talking about the Johnny Cash version for this, Johnny Cash and then the original Nine Inch Nails version, they both hit different ways, but they both hit.
Which is
And
impressive.
right, which I think really shows that the song itself is depressing. Where with Nutshell, I mean, I don't think there's really any super different covers that I've heard of it.
But a lot of
Um,
people love the Unplugged, which I know is not a cover. It's their own live version, but people love
but
that.
it's pretty similar to the studio,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And
just
I
seeing him
think
sing it might be harder, for some people to watch.
right with the pink hair and the
Yeah.
glasses. Um, I'll probably go Hurt too, just because it's universal. I mean, it's hard to say that '90s chord progression right there is not vibe. I've had plenty of times, especially growing up, where that song was pure therapy. But Hurt takes the cake for me.
All right. Next matchup, what Sarah said to the Comfort Kitty against the Frames Disappointed. It sucks because I actually think in a different matchup, Disappointed could have moved on one more round because it is one of those songs where I don't listen to it a lot because I not hate, but I dislike the studio production. But when you hear like that live version, which I'm going to show you later, it's so impactful in such a subtle, simple way. But I don't know what Sarah said, those lyrics and with our own personal experience, like I don't know. I think I got to go what Sarah said.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. I don't think I really need to add anything to that. That song was brand new to me, and it came across very clear that it was sad, emotional, easy.
All right, next matchup: Renegade Ladies, War on Drugs against the Cars song Drive.
No
Uh,
brainer,
War on Drugs
all the way.
all the way. Are you playing your hand? Are you showing your
Well,
cards?
all the way over Drive. I mean,
Is it also weird that like we picked the one song by the Cars that is Drive? Or was like a play on words.
the ultimate car song.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then the last matchup for this round, Hate Me by
Adhesive,
Blocktober or Adhesive?
adhesive.
It's Adhesive, yeah. I think we could have like okay, had we picked Blocktober's um Blue Orchid, that would have been a really good pair up, I think, with Adhesive. Because that's like is it did I get the title right? Because you're looking at me weird. I'm not thinking of the White Stripes
Black
song, am
Orchid,
I? Is it okay? I was thinking of the
the White Stripes.
White Stripes song,
I
Black
know
Orchid.
something.
Yeah.
I'm like something's not registering right. I'm like something's
Yeah.
off.
Well, because Blue October, they have a lot of songs with blue in the title, right? Blue
Blue skies,
Sunshine, Blue
blue
Sky,
says.
Blue Says, Mr. Blues Menu. Yeah, a lot of songs with blue. Um, but yeah, Black Orchid, the closing track on their debut album, that one is super like I actually don't know why. I think that one is like almost so like it's even more personal than Hate Me because it's kind of more in the vein of Nutshell, but it's more vivid in detail with the lyrics in Nutshell.
It's
That's
like if Evaporated had the vibe of Nutshell.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I don't know why we ended up. I think it just Hey Me we picked because it's like Blocktober's like biggest song, and it's very sad. It just fits this bracket, but yeah, I think Adhesive I like the performance better. And then song wise, I like the production better. I like the instrumentation better. Yeah,
I think the lyrics also, we talked about on the episode having a lot of like double meanings and being really, really kind of really complex, kind of surprisingly.
yeah. All right, we're on to the semifinals.
And this is already getting hard here.
All right, and we'll just start with this first matchup. Johnny Cash's cover of Hurt against What Sarah Said by Death Cab for Cutie. This is tough because I think
This song is so fresh for me. I just feel like I can't answer it.
I I think when I am as old as Johnny Cash was when he covered the song, I will think that that song is more impactful. But I think for where I am in my life, I think What Sarah Said is more impactful and more sad in that sense too. I think Johnny Cash's cover of Hurt, or just Hurt in general, that song. I'm not in a place in my life where that song makes me as sad as What Sarah Said.
Yeah, yeah,
You
I
agree?
think that's a good
All right.
explanation. I'm gonna go with what Sarah said as well. I think to me it impacts me more. And I'm gonna be honest, I think you made a good point about Johnny Cash. Like when you're older, it may hit even harder. Where like the
Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails version is a little bit more emo-y and May is
Yeah.
maybe a little more relatable in this time. But I think the storytelling and what Sarah said, like just painting the picture is really poetic and stuff. It's great.
All right. War on Drugs, me now. Adhesive STP. The two bands where we always do abbreviations.
This is gonna be the hardest by far.
I don't think it's as hard for me.
Okay, well, here's why it's hard for me. STP is my favorite band, and Adhesive is by far like one of my favorite songs by them. Top 30 easy. And I have a lot of time with it. I have a lot of memories with it. And it's a complete vibe track. While War on Drugs is a lot less raw, but it is so well crafted and written, and it also hits. I've had some times with it. Um, they're like equal. They feel equally sad, but just kind of facing a different direction.
Here's what I'll say. I'm gonna say the opposite of everything you said.
The hell?
I think I'm going off recency bias, and I think I'm
Mm.
going adhesive. I've spent way more time with War on Drugs by Bare Naked Ladies, and maybe it's just adhesive is so fresh to me, and it's like definitely one of my favorite out of all the STV songs I've heard from them. It's like probably one. It's definitely top three, top two, probably. Um,
It's like Days of the Week and then Adhesive,
yeah, because Interstate's up there too, but Interstate's like maybe three. Um,
right?
and I know we're right now we're talking about like is we're picking what our favorite song out of this bracket is, but remember we were talking about sadness, and I think the personality of Scott in Adhesive is more sad than you know. I think of more of War on Drugs. If the verses were more like the bridge of War on Drugs, it would be more sad. And
That is a good point.
the performance, I think actually in the verses of Adhesive, Scott's more vulnerable than he is in the chorus, which is the opposite for War on Drugs, where I feel like the verses don't hit as hard in War on Drugs than the chorus or that bridge. Where I'm immediately struck by like Scott's vocal performance in like the very first couple lines of Adhesive.
Well, okay, you know what? Going kind of off what you said, but kind of I guess talking about a different branch of it. When the song starts off, Adhesive, it starts off with just the big jangly guitar chord, big crash, and then it's instantly like vibe track. You get this acoustic strumming these dark, complex chords, and then you just get a lot of space in the song. The dynamics of it are really good. But I mean, same with War on Drugs, but
Are we going to crown War on Drugs as possibly a runner up on a sadness bracket, a song by a band called the Bare Naked Ladies? No disrespect to Bare Naked Ladies.
all right. You know what? I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna be cheap. I'm just gonna go with my favorite band here.
Yeah. Well,
Let's
I
go
think
Adhesive.
even if we did a tiebreaker, I'm sure Adhesive has more streams than War on Drugs.
Yeah, I feel like I'm being biased, but you know what though? It's the
Well,
one that
so am
moves
I,
me.
and but it's like the opposite bias. Like it's not. You think I would be picking the song that I've listened to for years over something I've only heard for like a month? But all right, so we have the final matchup, and again, these are just the songs Tony and I picked. I think if you did a poll, you would have a completely set of 16 songs from different bands or even different songs from some of these bands from other people. I think, again, this is just our list of some of our favorite songs and artists and bands. So, I mean, get in the comments if you want. I would definitely encourage our listeners to give us their favorite sad songs because I'm very curious of what other people thought. I did some research when picking some of these songs, and again, like no one's gonna, a lot of people are gonna say the Frames disappointed, or you know, Beneful's Five evaporated, but that's why Tony and I, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, we
Um,
got you with all them sad fixins.
so what Sarah said, does Cat for Cutie or adhesive STP? Do you like have a like clear, or is this like the hardest one for you because it's the last one?
Honestly, I think War on Drugs and Adhesive were a little bit tougher. I think what Sarah said, the quality is great. The lyrics really say so much. I was instantly moved by it first listen, and I think it's done really well. But I think the performance is not as captivating as War on Drugs or Adhesive. Like, not I know we're not talking about War on Drugs right now, but
But see, I would
there's a
pick it over
very
War on Drugs still.
really see the
Yeah.
delivery on War on Drugs is so serious yet self-aware that it works so great, and then Adhesive is so vulnerable and pure. But what Sarah said is, how would you describe the performance and what Sarah said? Let's go there.
I think it plays for the song. It's like the music is like I feel like it could be one of those songs where the lyrics came first almost because I feel like the music sets up the lyrics in the best way possible. Like I think if it was a song that built as much as other Death Cab for Cutie songs like Bixby Canyon Bridge, I think that would take away from the lyrics. Where adhesive, it starts off fitting the lyrics very well because, like you said, it's spacey. There's a lot of space for the instrumentation, for Scott's vocals and lyrics. But then it rocks out in the pre-chorus and chorus when it needs to fit Scott's vocal performance. Where like Ben Gibbard's voice stays kind of the same until the very end when he's singing the "Who's Gonna Watch You Die." Like they do put reverb on his vocals and make it seem very far away to lead to that instrumental outro that you had mentioned. It's hard because I do think what Sarah said is sadder overall in the sense that it's a universal sad feeling that unfortunately probably everyone eventually feels for someone else or for themselves. But I do think adhesive is more of a personal sad song about someone's struggles.
I've been listening to Adhesive for roughly a decade, and it still gets me emotional. I have to go with Adhesive for that alone.
You know what? I really thought, well, first of all, I didn't think what Sarah said would make it this far because, we didn't really talk about the songs you had not heard before prior to this episode. I didn't think would make it very far. Like I'm not surprised that, the Warren Zevon song didn't make it far. I'm not surprised that um the Radiohead song didn't make it far.
And I really
Um
like the Zevon song, by the way.
yeah,
So it's not even that.
but I am surprised what Sarah said beat out Hurt, or even beat out the Frames or Ben Folds, two bands that you listen to more than Death Cab for Cutie. Not because you don't like Death Cab for Cutie less, just you haven't been exposed to them as much. And again, that's part of this podcast. Uh, and I think I got to go adhesive too. Out of these group of songs,
Wow.
I think I will say this, and a little bit of a recency bias, and there was a time in my life where what Sarah said hit me really hard. But thankfully, right now, I'm not in a position where what Sarah said hits me as hard. And to be fair, I've never been in a position where adhesive would hit me hard on a personal level. But somehow the performance is so captivating. It's one of those performances like in a TV show or movie where, someone is portraying emotions or feelings so well that it makes you feel them even if you've never felt them in your life. And that's what adhesive does. So
Well said.
I think we are going to crown adhesive, at least out of this batch of 16 songs, as our saddest song.
And this is kind of bonkers because if I were to have given you Tiny Music, in March after this episode, then it wouldn't have been on this list and wouldn't have won.
True.
What a different
I
reality.
mean,
Right
you
there.
could have still suggested it and I would have listened to it on its own, but it would have probably been
True.
less impactful, I would say.
Right. It'd be
I
like, hey,
would have
listen to
listened
this
to it
sad
less.
song.
I would have listened
Where-
to it less, yeah.
Right. Versus, here's this album. Holy shit, what is this song I'm hearing? You know?
Very true. All right. Well, definitely let us know in the comments what you think is the saddest song out of our bracket. And drop us what are your favorite songs in general from any artist or band. Whether you have a personal connection to them or you just think they're so damn sad. Next week, Tony and I are going to be doing a little album appreciation episode of one of my favorite albums of all time. And I think for Tony, at least, very underrated album.
I would say top 50 for sure.
Oh, yeah. Mine is top 10.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't blame you. You'll find out.
You'll find out next week. But until then, we hope everyone takes care and you'll be hearing and seeing from us soon. Bye.
Who's gonna tell you when it's too late? Who's gonna tell you things aren't so great? You can't go on thinking nothing's wrong, but now who's gonna drive you home tonight? Who's gonna pick you up when you fall? Who's gonna hang it up? Who's gonna pay attention to your dreams? Who's gonna plug the ears when you scream? Can't go on thinking nothing's wrong, but now who's gonna drive you home tonight? can't go on thinking nothing's wrong. But now, who's gonna drive you home?